Guys, you always want the referees to speak up.
Okay, well, now we are recording. So, Chris, why don't you start us off tonight?
Yeah. Beanstown North Shore didn't come into the game with too many expectations on what we were going to see from the teams, mostly because North Shore really hadn't shown us much yet this season. So once I started talking to the teams, it became clear that the North Shore captain had some very realistic expectations about how this game was going to go for their team. And it was clear that they were willing to work very closely with me to make sure the game flowed as much as it could, considering North Shore's season thus far. So my own personal goals, kind of same thing I talk about every week. Let it breathe, let it breathe, let it breathe. Give myself an extra second to make decisions at every decision, but especially around breakdowns. And then something Wendy passed along to me that I don't know how it works. I couldn't tell you how it works, but I know it worked, is the simple analogy of whales versus minnows. A lot of my penalties in previous weeks have been minnows. Let's go after the whales. And Lee and I worked a lot around breaking down what that actually means. And I think it's mostly about context, but that third penalty, or the third goal, was to make sure Beantown was being legal on their little wall they set up for their kicker. It only happened once in my game, and I definitely did not achieve that goal. But super fun game considering the scoreline. As far as one-sided matches go, this was a blast. And for the first time in I don't know how many years, I had a penalty count below 20.
Awesome.
So yeah, happy about that.
Yeah. How long till your next match?
It depends if I go to the finals or not.
Okay. Yeah.
I need to get back to you on that.
Want to get you on the pitch as soon as possible so you can have another one like this.
Yeah, I'm doing that's. Well, gosh, I'm doing sevens this weekend, so I hope that doesn't erase the progress.
Exactly wrong. Okay, well,
Setting yourself up for a remission.
Yeah. To the clips, or Lee, are you on? Did you have anything to say?
There's some really interesting clips in this game, and Chris did amazing.
Good to hear. All right, where do we want to start?
Let's start with the lesson learned one, third one down from the very top. Yeah. Okay. So this was a situation. I had ARs, we had comms, and the comms totally failed at some point in the first half, just that loud noise, which meant one of the cables wasn't all the way plugged in. And so we dropped the earpieces, and this was just such a simple lesson to relearn, where we'll see what happens. The ball comes out the side of the scrum after already restarting. And instead of just focusing on the evidence in front of me, I got all tied up and worried about the comms and could tell the AR was trying to say something. And I think it's just a good moment of all right, regardless of what's happening with communication from anyone, players, ARs, just remind yourself to look at what's happening on the field. So this is, I don't even know if there will be a discussion here. This is just a lesson that I need to be reminded of.
I can see you just looking back at the sideline.
Yeah, the whole time, instead of just reminding yourself, okay, just look at the situation, use your context clues, and just reset the scrum. You can see me staring at the AR, and then as I'm running away,
Bridget's standing there frantically pounding her chest.
Yeah. So simple lesson, and it's Lee and I talked about it a little bit. It's one of those things that no, I didn't see the ball come out on the other side, but surely if I just hit pause, ask myself the right question, I could have easily said, no, clearly must have come out the side. Let's have it again.
Okay.
That's the lamest clip thus far. The foul play fent to the neck, I think we'll do the next one. Save the best for last.
Okay.
So this was called no penalty in real time. For me, on the field, it wasn't clear and obvious foul play. That might have been because I didn't have a great view of it, but in the video, Lee's initial feeling that this was card-worthy foul play, and we kind of went back and forth on that. And I'm curious to hear what the group thinks. So let's roll it.
Might be tough to see blowing up that big.
So it's not the initial tackler; it's that second second kind of tackler that
Yeah, right there.
failed at the goal tackling.
Is everybody kind of seeing this on their own, or are we trying to get it here?
No, it's pretty clear the first time.
Badoom. Yep. Who has thoughts?
Brian has thoughts. He's making all those faces over there.
Camera don't lie. What you got, Brian?
That hurts. I
Yeah.
mean, see, I love a good fend. I'm a sucker for a fend, but that's I mean, yeah, that's in the throat and like away from the body and just pretty dangerous and dominant, as Wendy has so succinctly put in her message. But yeah, I think you have to penalize that, sadly.
I don't disagree.
This is Emily. I agree. And I also historically don't penalize fence to the, yes. Historically, I also do not call this, but I agree that I should.
It
Yeah.
sounds like the group is moving toward just a penalty.
I do not think that we can just penalize this.
Mhm.
Andrew, I see you shaking your head. What do you think?
Yeah, this has to be a yellow card. I mean, she's leading with her forearm rather than a push off. I think if it's a fend and it slips up into her face, that's more fine. If it's just like a misplaced hand, that's a little different, but like a forearm or like a closed something like an elbow straight to her throat, that's got to be a yellow card minimum.
You're going to have to sell me on yellow card with the verbiage that you've used.
Forearm was moving
You're-
outward at the moment of contact. She
she's
was thrusting that forearm into the neck.
Are you saying, Amanda,
Yes,
versus having a red card?
yes, correct. The verbiage that I
Because-
have heard so far leads me to red card. Go ahead, Haley.
Well, I'm just trying to remember what game it was. It was US and New Zealand, I think, right? Women's, and this is the exact situation that
Yep.
happened. And I can't remember.
I think I was the TMO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Yes, it was Hope, yeah.
Rugby upheld that red card.
What's that?
Rugby
Chris?
upheld that red card if I'm thinking of the same one.
Yeah, well, there was two in secession, right? Yeah, one was Hope, and then the other one was someone else. Holly Davidson had one, right? Right when the law
Yeah.
changed.
Yep.
And we were all very shocked by that one being red.
Megan Rom
Was the second?
was that? Well, I think the Holly.
Oh, the Holly Davidson one
Yeah.
was Megan, and then the second one was Hope.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, when I'm hearing direct contact to the throat and I'm getting to red card.
So isn't the defining differences between red card, yellow card with direct contact, the difference between high and low force, right? So usually they say if it's direct contact, low force, it's going to be in the yellow card area versus if it's definitely high force, direct contact, it's red card. So that's a possibility. I don't know.
Yeah. Can we sell that as low force?
I think that's the only defining thing, because if it's high force, direct contact, it is a red card.
Can you play in real time again, Amanda?
Yeah.
Oh man, giving a red card for this like hurts my rugby soul.
I hear you, but look at her head whip. I had a coach call me today, you guys. They're very serious about contact to the head.
Yeah,
I
to
know,
me,
I'm
this-
not saying it's wrong. It's just like my gut is just like, no.
It's
I
high
think
force. Look at her head
giving
whip.
Giving a penalty like that throws a wrench in the flow of play is hard, and it's hard enough, and then giving a red card it's difficult. But I mean, just like that, seeing Hope getting sent off the pitch wasn't something we wanted, but I think with the language that we have, her head goes forward first, right? And that shows.
right, and we have to take out intention, right? Everyone goes, nobody intends to really hurt somebody, in the sense, right? In the spirit of the game. What was the result, right? Direct contact, high force, right? It needs to come out of the game. That's the ultimate goal. It needs to get out. And regardless of the circumstances, how it led up, it's not a mitigating factor, right? So if direct high, I mean, I would think that way. I mean, anyone disagree, or I'm just curious?
I think if you go, and I don't think this will be productive to the discussion, we can move on if we need to, but I mean, like, I'm going frame by frame right now. I don't know that it's clearly and obviously direct
Okay.
anywhere, but that's not going to help her.
If you can use the verbiage that, the first point of contact was the chest,
Mhm.
and it slipped up, then I'm fine with the yellow card here, but.
Yeah, indirect with high is yellow. High force, I'm sorry. Indirect contact with high force is considered yellow. Sorry. Too many verbiage.
Yeah, no, I think you got there in the end.
And last question, do we care at all that she's being tackled by another Beantown player at that moment?
Chris, I don't think that the Beantown player tackling her made any effect on her sticking her arm out. Like, that arm was going to be out regardless. And why is it her left arm if the tackler is coming from the right?
She doesn't do herself any favors. She definitely gives a good extension as 10 is being blasted into oblivion.
Yeah, it's totally the wrong side of the body, right? Like, the first tackle.
Yeah, I just don't think it impacted anything.
I think for me, the biggest comparison that once again I think is harsh is the like head-on-head contact in a tackle. If a tackler goes into contact and they both go low and they make head-on-head contact, that's a red card because the tackler has made it dangerous by making a dangerous action. I think you could apply the same thing here, is that, it's unfortunate contact, but you want to pull that out of the game and we want to stop people from getting concussions.
Cool. All right. Is everybody happy? Everybody clear on it? Any additional comments? All right, let's roll. What else we got, Chris?
Top on the screen right there. What's the call?
Did I just click on the wrong one? Yep.
One above that. There you go. So this is a fun one. I think this is the one Lee's excited about. North Shore is finally putting some pressure on Beantown. North Shore is inside. Beantown's 22. Cheeky little kick over the top that Green actually regathers, and let's look at the actions of the arriving Beantown player.
Okay, so you penalized Beantown for not through the gate.
Not through the gate, and she never tried to keep her weight. And then once she was on the ground, she kept bringing that ball back to her own side. I went penalty only, and looking on it now, this screams yellow card, especially because of the flow of the game. Where we were, I'm not sure what minute this was, but the scoreline wherever we were was definitively in Beantown's favor. North Shore finally gets the momentum. They kill the play like that. Definitely yellow. And my coach had another idea for even additional sanction. Maybe even thinking penalty try.
Okay. I'm on a different page entirely.
Okay.
Who has thoughts here?
Hi, this is Jenny. I'm thinking yellow card because that player had no control and just flopped on top of the rock. I'm not sure if I would go penalty try, but I'm thinking yellow card because of just a lack of control in the area of the field.
Yeah, can I ask one question here? Do we think there's an extra movement by Green?
So that was something Lee and I discussed, and I noticed when we were reviewing it together. And I think Lee, and feel free to jump in, Lee, but we kind of agreed that she ends up in kind of a position where she's like if we go forward a frame or two, she ends up in this weird position where she's like on her head. And so it's like, all right, well, she has to any human's going to take themselves out of that position. But I can definitely see that too, which almost like you could almost argue for that matter. Like, could we find a way to play on from this too? Sure. Beantown comes from the side. Green kind of takes an extra movement. It's funny because I think there could be arguments made for anything from play on to cards.
I fully support your decision of off your feet from the side, killing the ball, because the defense has not done enough for the ball carrier to be penalized in any scenario in my book. Yeah.
You don't think Red would have come through the gate if Green had stopped moving when she had been tackled? She ends up 3 meters further down the pitch.
3 meters?
2.5.
I mean, she gets a movement, right? She gets one place, she does it, and then she's stopped. She gets one movement. I mean, if you want to be technical, I think ball carrier probably could have been I mean, I wouldn't have. I would not have probably penalized ball carrier because the momentum, she's moving forward, she would have been short and she would have placed the ball backwards. Or she might have done that.
You don't think her legs like take out the arriving player and cause the flop anyway?
Well, then also look at red 15, the tackler, if you're gonna be also taking out the support.
Well, yeah, she did kick her right.
And then you can pin that too.
Who has thoughts?
Peter does.
Well, first of all, that roll looks like a momentum rather than a deliberate, at least the beginning of it.
I think so.
Agreed.
And then,
okay.
The entry is illegal even before the Beantown player, gets tangled up, and perhaps the roll causes her to flop, but it doesn't change the entry angle.
Okay.
So
Then we're at
yellow, I think, on this. I'm not convinced probable try because there's other defenders arriving very quickly, and that ball still needs to be picked up by whoever's supporting player is there.
Yeah, I agree with Peter. This is Wendy. I think another thing to think about here too is like, we want exciting games, exciting tries. We want to reward positive play. So I totally think this is yellow card worthy for Beantown.
I think this actually kind of plays into the goals I talked about, minnows versus whales. My gut tells me the whale here is the side entry where the potential extra roll is the minnow. Neither technically incorrect, but
well, I'd also ask if that really is a tackle. Is she held when she's on the ground? She's certainly knocked down by the Beantown tackler, but is she held? That's, I haven't done a frame by frame on that clip, so I can't answer that question.
Chris, what got you to call the penalty and not in this situation, since I know you've worked on advantage? Like why blow the penalty and not let advantage? Was the ball dead?
Yeah, Beantown played the ball in such a way where it just didn't seem like a possibility the ball was going to come back. Like I think she comes in from the side, falls off her feet,
It's on her chest,
trapping the ball in. And I was hoping, it's amazing how many Beantown players got there immediately. I was hoping, I was expecting North Shore to go back, tap, and go for it, but yeah, definitely should have played advantage. Give another second, hollered at Red to get their hands away, and who knows? Because if we had gotten a try here, maybe I could have found a way to get away from the card I didn't give. What am I talking about?
Yeah, but the ball looked dead at that point.
Yeah, I think it was dead.
Yeah, I think your initial reaction screams to me that you're pulling out a card already, and then you kind of back down on it. So maybe it's just a balance thing of trying to not see, like you've seen it, your initial reaction is that's very wrong, and then you have to go with that gut reaction again.
Yeah.
because you've cut out your penalties perfectly this game, and then it's just now, okay, that's a yellow card.
Mhm. Agree.
Good. Is that it?
Yeah. Lee, anything?
I love that clip so much.
Awesome. Thank you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Thank you.
Good work.
I had fun. Woohoo!
Looks like you have a house guest, huh?
It's some guy on the street. He looked like he needed a good meal, so I
A
brought him.
random referee.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Jenny, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure, happy to. Went over, had a 24-hour trip to San Diego, and it was a very exciting match, a back and forth affair. Both teams wanted to play mostly positive rugby, and my work-ons were our effective advantage, really minimizing that penalty advantage unless it's super crystal clear. I think that worked fairly well. I only attempted it twice, and one was an advantage that turned into a try. But I do think that I had a couple missed opportunities for a scrum advantage. Some bounces that I wasn't expecting that popped into their hands, and they had a little bit of an opportunity, and I was a little bit too quick with the whistle. But other than that, it was a really fun game.
A lot of scrums.
Yep, a lot of scrums.
Cool. And Bob, did you have anything to say about it?
Yeah, even though a lot of scrums, low penalty count, a lot of scrums, but very safe scrums. So a lot to be said. Great game.
To the clips then.
Cool. All right. How about, is everyone okay with everything that happens here? So it's worth noting that the ARs and I did not have radios, so we just went old school and we're just looking at each other.
It's like
It
lines
would have
on the
been.
pitch. Who needs them?
I'm sorry?
It's like lines on the pitch. Who needs them?
Right, exactly. But radios been great just to confirm what I was seeing, and I still own the decision, but I think I maybe could have slowed down and talked to the ARs to make sure that we got our process correct.
All right. So you awarded the try there, and if you could redo it, you would do what differently?
Since we didn't have radios and it was a little bit of a mess, I would have blown time off and just talked to the ARs and say, are you okay with the timing of the flanker coming off? Are you okay with, anyone else unbound? Basically just the flanker, and check that with them. But looking back on this, for me, I think the timing was good. Open to hearing everyone else's thoughts.
Anybody?
Looks good to me. Her timing anyway.
I'm surprised she
broke
stayed
off
on
a
as
little.
long as she did.
Yeah, I loved it. That was a great try.
Yeah.
Great cherry pick too.
Yeah.
No, I mean, hard to tell from this angle and with that field, but awfully close to 90.
Yeah, that's another thing. I was like, oh, was that actually 90, or was it just almost at 90? And I think, yeah, almost at 90. So they went forward first, earned the turn, and then San Diego chose to play into the wheel and not use their natural release valve. So that's kind of on them to throw it into that area.
Yeah, they could have kept it in 5 more degrees and you would have reset it to them again.
Right, yeah.
Because that certainly wasn't an illegal wheel.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. It was a very nice drive forward before it turned.
Cool.
Happy with it. Good.
Sweet.
What's next? First yellow card?
Yeah, there's two. They're like yellow card, question mark. Okay. This one, okay, so the 14 comes across and punches that person in the neck. As I blow a quick penalty, scrum half wants to go, so I allow them to go. And then they aren't back 10. So I put an advantage out and then they score the try. Would anyone do anything differently in this scenario?
So is it the high tackle you're asking about a yellow card for, or is it the not 10?
Oh, Bob and I talked about it, and would
That
anyone
was my question.
stop at that not 10 because they've tackled the player early and then just awarded a yellow card in that moment? Or would you all have continued to play advantage here? Or would you have stopped with that high tackle and just quickly blown your whistle and given a yellow card there? So both of those things, both of the questions.
I would have carded the high tackle immediately, because the only I mean, like, that's, for me, that looks like a yellow card, high tackle. She came right in straight, wasn't ever aiming low, just hit her high.
Mhm.
And if San Diego doesn't score there, which seems to, I hope, erase the memory of the high tackle there, that might have been a very frustrating moment for them to not watch that opponent get a card on that. So I would have stopped it and carded the high tackle.
Cool.
I would have banked it. So play the penalty, then the advantage after the try is scored, issue the yellow card.
What do you issue the yellow card for?
The high tackle.
Not for the not back 10, that close to the goal line?
Yeah, 1 meter out.
Maybe you give two yellow cards.
Maybe two.
Right.
Let's make it 3.
Hey, Jenny,
Yeah.
quick question. How far from the try line roughly was the high tackle? It's a little difficult to tell with like the camera angle and no blinds.
Yeah, I know.
I'm almost inclined to say that Orange has done close to enough to get as far back 10 as they can. Like, it looks pretty close to 10 from this angle.
Yeah.
In which case, like, I would say no yellow card. I'm fine with the try, but yeah, definitely yellow card for that high tackle first.
Mm. Yeah, probably roughly 10 meters away from the angle. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, if you're yellow carding the high tackle, there's no point in even talking about the not 10, because so I've done this many times, or I've seen this, but yeah, it's the worst thing to do, but you gotta, I would personally blow the whistle twice, even if a body got under the post and scores, because that's foul play and we're trying to get that out of the game. And in the end, you then get a 1 player advantage for 10 minutes. So I think that's kind of takes courage to do, because you want to see them score. But the not 10, I agree with Andrew. I think that I would be happy with that, but you're not happy with the initial thing, and that's why this is even a discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's fair.
Would whether to pause the game to give a yellow card change based on the level of play? So I think for a high school game, I would stop and issue the yellow card. Or you're saying it doesn't matter, just stop it and do the yellow card?
If that's Super Rugby, they stopping the game and they're giving a yellow card, because that's a very dangerous high tackle.
Yeah, I was just a second too slow with the whistle, and that scrum half just came right in, and I was like, oh shoot, well, I guess we're going. But yeah, I think your point about doing the double blast first is a really good one, just to be like, hey, no, we're not moving on from this.
Yeah, the point about what the yellow card is worth is also something to think about. Because yellow cards, don't they say 10 points? The yellow card's worth 10 points, something like that.
Mm.
So you should score if you're a man down.
Cool.
Next one.
Okay, this is my second yellow card question mark. And this, again, we don't have radios here. And I was expecting, so it's they're quick tapping from 5 meters out. I'm expecting KJ to just run someone over. So I'm kind of lollygagging in the middle of the field and they pass it out and I'm completely unsighted. There's a bunch of bodies. I don't see this knock on, but I see the ball on the ground. I blow time off. I approach Luann and I said, was that intentional? And they said they tried to regather it. It's just a knock on. And wondering what the rest of the group thinks, given our other discussions about intentional knock-ons.
So your question to her was that intentional?
Yeah.
And then Luann said,
they tried to regather it. It was just a knock on. Maybe I could have asked for more information because they were not privy to any of the conversations that we had. But I just went with what they thought because I asked very directly, was that intentional? And I could have, in hindsight, asked for more information.
Okay.
But she gave you more of an answer than you were looking for right off the bat. Right? All you wanted was, yes, it was intentional, and then you move on to what does it, what did it break up?
Yeah, I was ready before when it was at halfway. I was like, I don't know, in the other game, but I was completely ready to give a card here. And then when I heard it was just a knock on, they tried to regather it. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, I didn't see it, so I'm gonna have to go with what you say.
so decision on the day was penalty.
It was a scrum because
scrum.
Yeah,
Okay.
they said they tried to regather it. They had a realistic chance to catch it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, here it says PK only.
Oh, sorry, that was a mistake.
That's okay. We just need to edit it before it goes. Okay, so looking at it now, what do you think?
Are you asking me or the group?
Oh, I don't care who answers. Or is that, do we even care about that? Or are you just more worried about the process?
Can you run that at slow?
Yeah.
She's literally just standing there waiting for the pass.
It's kind of like the one last week where it like just hits her hands and she's like, again.
Yeah.
Just feels really harsh to yellow card that. I mean, maybe PK.
Yeah, but then you got a 2-on-1 on the outside, so.
Yeah, it's one of those terrible situations where it's either playing on or a penalty yellow card, or knock on or a penalty yellow card. If we think it's a penalty, I feel like it must be a card.
It's also just really bad rugby. Like, who's she passing to? So it's also hard to like yellow card that.
Okay. Let's be respectful of the players too.
I apologize. You're correct.
That's okay.
I mean, to me, it looks like the player is very much in the passing lane, getting ready to catch that ball, 2 hands in the air. The fact that it's been dropped is just a travesty because it was passed straight to her. But at the same time, the angle is very unfavorable to the referee's discussion.
I agree, right? That's what I saw. She's right in the passing lane. She's got both hands there, and it looks like she muffed the pad, like the ball itself. So I said, knock on. That's fine. The process, you went to the AR. The AR says just a knock on, so you went to the knock on. I thought the process was fine. So
Cool.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right, and then the last one is a blooper reel. I call it my Cat Roche award for excellence in athleticism. She always puts these like highlight reels of her falling over the field.
Wow.
Hashtag athlete.
You're right back up. Rest in time to do your job. It's a great job.
Oh, you're not going to play that one twice?
Oh, you want to see it again? You want slow motion?
But for a learning moment, Bob challenged me to think about my approach and having an urgency to just kind of get players out of the way and get through there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Learning moment. That's all.
Yeah.
We all have those. All right, Emily, Shay, Bob and Jenny, anything else on that? Are we good?
No, that's it. It was just,
Good.
it was a great.
Everybody.
Cool.
Kudos.
Thank you. Emily?
All right, this is Emily. Like my report. So I thought Peter wrote a very accurate game description, and if you want to scroll down, I'm just gonna read it. Peter is my coach this week. He has a way with words. So, and he's also very concise and clear. So I liked this description. It was pouring rain on Saturday on Randall's Island and about 40 degrees, which is very cold. And I guess some context, Colorado only traveled with 15, well, they said they had 15 players, but they had 16 players. So for some context, I think the game didn't pan out as everyone expected, given how their team had played in previous weeks. Yeah, so a lot of the game was played between the 22s, and New York was able to put points on the board in the first half when they visited the opponent's 22. In the second half, Colorado did have more chances, and I would say both teams played really good defense.
One breakdown in defense and it cost Colorado 5 points.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Peter. And he'll talk about my game plan and how that went, and then share some trends and then do clips.
Okay.
So I had 2 focuses for the game. The first one was my overall movement and positioning around the field, and that's one of my season focuses. And then my second focus was about recognizing trends and patterns, especially, we'll hit that. I'll expand later. So the first one, I think that I felt it improved since my first game. And so that's a good feeling. I didn't feel like I was getting into traffic as much or getting sucked in as much. Peter helped me identify one area to keep improving was when the play was really flat, for example, off a line out. We noticed I took a straight line into the tackle and would end up approaching it at the equator. So going forward, we talked about picking a target to approach from depth and from the same corner rather than the equator, like how I would approach play otherwise. For my second focus on recognizing trends, if you recall my first WPL match in week 2, there was almost 30 penalty kicks. So we identified this as a big area to improve on going forward in this season. And I can try and take a more preventative approach. So this time, trying to be more. I also wrote, I was trying to be more tuned into, 15s mode, and give myself a moment to assess rather than immediately blowing the whistle. So what happened in the game, while I did recognize some trends early and I had one chat with the New York captain, I kind of paused the process there, and I need to continue to go beyond the initial management and use more opportunities to increase the pressure for the teams to comply. So in our review, Peter helped me identify several times in the second half where I could have stopped the game and talked to the New York captain, especially after penalty kicks in their defending 22. And something helpful that he shared was describing the concept of penalty kicks falling into different buckets. So penalty kicks that are defensive and destructive, especially within the 22, which is kind of its sub bucket, is the most important. And that happened a couple times in the second half, which were opportunities for me to talk to the captain and escalate. So yeah, the other thing I wrote down, scrums were a big area of focus and energy to me during the game and in review. And similarly to my second focus area, I talked about how, well, we pointed out some issues on setups that perhaps I could have seen and add to my checklist on setup. And I think during the game, while I noticed some things, I ended up being kind of a broken record, and similar to recognizing penalty kick trends, I didn't escalate in a way I wanted to at the scrum to get improvement or like a change of behavior. Yes, we'll see one clip around scrums. So trends to be aware of. I actually, in like scouting the teams, I literally wrote down in my game plan that both teams will kick out of their 22 and try, like, they have a kicking game, and then the first 50-22 in the game, I mentally forgot. I was like, oh, where did they kick it from? And everyone around me was yelling 50-22. And that there are a couple of successful 50-22s from both teams. So this was just a reminder to me and for the rest of this league that we have that skill and to be aware. Peter also gave helpful feedback that we should, I mean, I know we're supposed to treat it like the 22 and like vocalize if it's taken in, or however you communicate where we are in terms of the 22, use that for halfway as well. And for folks who are refereeing New York, I thought the number 7, the player who wore number 7 this time, their name is Gio, and number 8, Misha, who's their captain, both of them do attempt to jackal a lot. And I bring this up specifically also because number 7 asked me, like, when is it too late? Because there were multiple times in the game where I tried to manage, I thought that they were too late and they didn't get hands on the ball before the ruck was formed, and I was trying to manage them out of that. Rather than, for example, if I were ripping 7s, the penalty kick every time. But this is just for awareness. And I believe what the answer I said is, if you feel contact before you have hands on the ball, that's too late because the ruck is formed. I was like, when you feel contact, that is a ruck.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to describe that it's a way that players can understand. Because it's something that there's constant confusion amongst the players. Where's that line between I can take it and no, you can't?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great answer, Emily.
Oh, thank you, Peter. Yes, in the past, I would say like, oh, I'm trying to vocalize ruck. So if you hear ruck, you have to think about, et cetera, et cetera. But after the game, the player came up and said, like, thanks for telling them that. Okay.
Clips, more here?
Sorry, what happened? I missed it.
Oh, are we ready to go to clips, or is there more here?
No, we're ready to go to clips.
Cool.
I think the stat summary looks closer to what we're aiming for than my first week.
That was great. Thank you. good thing about the 50-22 for everybody to keep in mind, for sure.
Just, articulate every time, either inside or taken back. And say it out loud,
Mhm.
so the players know where you're at.
Yeah. Sorry, my phone's kind of. Everyone can still hear me. I'm using my phone for audio.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
thanks. I was gonna say one more thing about the 50-22. I forget. Oh well. On review, I honestly wasn't sure if I got it right, and I was worried. I was thinking like there might have been a lot error, but thankfully I did get it right in the game.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so the first clip. Oh, I'll just do the first three with my name on it in that order. The one says a shift to 15's mindset. So this is, I kind of copy and pasted the comment from my coach. For me, I felt on review, I actually wasn't sure if I did the right thing, but after Peter and I discussed it, I felt that this was a win for me, shifting from a 7's mindset to a 15's mindset. It's just a scenario where number 7 is going to try and jackal, but there was contact over the ball, and you can see I'm like telling number 7 to release, and we play on from there. You can tell that number 6 heard me try to manage the New York player, and it's kind of like, why aren't we getting a penalty kick? And so I thought it was an interesting discussion with Peter, just philosophically saying that even if they had a faster ball, New York was already set up, so it wasn't really just taking away an advantage that Colorado could have had.
Interesting point.
Yeah.
But if, for
Six
example,
was-
it really was slowing down the ball and New York was not set up, then if I thought that was illegal, then I should penalize. Anyone disagree or?
That works.
Okay.
Yeah, because definitely had the defense not been set, the ball is slowed.
Yeah, it was very slow ball.
But yeah, the argument there also makes sense. I think as a rule, we want to be careful how much we're managing in that area versus penalizing. So.
Yeah, that was also, almost 60 minutes into the game.
Right.
Standards had been established already.
In the pouring rain.
That's remarkably good video considering the weather.
And, they were concerned it wasn't high enough resolution. They were like, don't use the first copy. We have a better one. I was like, the first copy will work for us.
They did well. They should get a thank you.
There's a better version out there. So.
And they also used the Zoom, which a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I thought it was well done too.
Oh, I should mention, sorry, this is Emily. I should mention that the New York one player, I think their president asked if I had ref audio because they would love to add it to the film. And I didn't know that was an option. So if anyone refs New York in the future and records their own audio, you can send it over and they can do that production. So that would have been great to know in advance. Now we know. The second clip, fair jackal or not supporting in body weight. So yes, this is the next tackle. I don't know if I have to explain this. As the referee, this is Emily. On review, I still felt comfortable with the jackler. I know other people might see it differently. So I'm wondering what the group thinks about this picture.
My question is, could she lift the ball from there? Two hands on and lifting. It's tight, no matter what. What do we think?
Hey, this is Emily. I do think you can lift the ball from there, but I also understand it looks very like shoulders way below the hips. So I guess I'm wondering what everyone else's tolerance is and if I need to adjust.
I bet if we pulled the group, we're 50-50.
Oh, okay.
Anybody?
Thumbs up, thumbs down reaction. If we
Yep,
just want to take a poll. Oh, we can't.
Emily, I have a question for you. Do you think that
Yes.
like if the arriving player from Colorado, their first arriving player hadn't have been there, do you think she would have fallen forward onto her face?
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think so. But I also do think that the arriving Colorado player does help, like, New York, I guess, reset or get into a stronger body position.
Yeah. To me, it kind of looks like she almost sets her first body position expecting to get cleaned out and like puts herself in a place where she's going to be cleaned into a stronger position. You know, because I think the second picture that we see where the Colorado player has then cleaned her, she looks super solid. If that's the first picture we see, that's 100% phenomenal. But I think the first one, the player has gone definitely a little farther than usual. And it's almost to me like cleaning it, like hands beyond the ball, getting raked back onto it to be in a strong position. I think you have to be in a strong position to start off with, not necessarily end with, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is Jenny. I agree with Andrew. It's hard. It would be hard for you to see, but like you can see their leg lifting up off the ground as they make contact with the body on the ground. So to me, that says that's an extreme angle and the weight distribution's not, they maybe have got it wrong.
Yeah, I like exactly my train of thought. Andrew is exactly that, because initially the picture is like hands beyond, but when you blow that whistle, like the picture looks like she really earned that ball. So just like when you approach the ruck, the picture you saw, I think was an appropriate picture for the penalty you called, but the initial picture happened so quick. That's a really good point, Andrew.
Cool. Well, in the interest of time, thank you for that feedback. So I think if I'm going to penalize for offbeat, it does sound like I may be ready to blow the whistle like sooner, and that would help sell that offbeat call. Great, thank you. The last clip is about a scrum. So the trend throughout the game was, not always, but Colorado in general did have a dominant scrum. And in the clip we're going to see, yes, I did put the whistle in my mouth to almost reward Colorado at this scrum, but then the New York 8 like somehow got the ball out, and since the ball was out, I was like, I guess I don't need to blow a penalty. But the question is, and on review, Peter and I agree what would have been the better decision, but the question for the group is, do we think play on is okay because the ball came out, or did Colorado, the red team, do enough to earn a penalty kick? So we could penalize New York for standing up, the flanker breaking off early. I know I have the tendency to say, oh, the ball's out, play on.
But was the ball out because they stood up?
Perhaps.
Or do they
So,
retain possession because they stood up?
Yeah. To answer my own question, I think the better decision would have been to, or penalty kick to Colorado.
I think so. Other thoughts out there? Does everybody agree?
Can we just get audio on the cadence there? It just seems pretty quick.
Get audio on the rain. Let's see. Good point. So what are you thinking, Brian?
It just seems like, and this might be being very nitpicky, but it seems half a second too quick. It seems like you really don't want to be in part of the scrum, which I'm a big fan of because I too hate scrums, and I'm like 7 scrums because the ball comes out. But this just seems like you've called crouch, bind, set, and the first thing I'm looking at is the 8 from New York is about like looks like they want to swing in, and the 8 from Colorado is on a knee still. Now, does this affect the rest of the play? Possibly not, but I think that initial picture is causing that rush that then has a follow-on effect that now like the ball's out and you're like, well, cool, ball's out, we're playing rugby again. Happy days.
Brian, I didn't get that
Just
sense
to
that,
clarify-
that things were being rushed there. The New York 8, you're right, was not in until after bind, or in at bind, not before. But certainly she was in well before set. And similarly, the Colorado 8 was up on her knees in a good position before set.
I don't disagree with that, Peter. What I'm saying is I'm genuinely we're talking half a second total possibly here, but I think that does make, because it's just a settler, if for nothing else for the referee, because that extra half a second just helps you to just go through your process. And if you just slow down that rate just enough, that I just think as a technique to help more as a discussion point.
Fair point, Brian. I think Emily is going to be expanding her checklist for each of the stages. And so that may provide a natural slowdown.
Thank you, Peter. That is my game plan going forward.
Good comment, Brian. Thank you for that. Emily?
Okay. That's me. That's all.
That's all. You don't want to do the
There are
others?
other clips in there. No, I mean, I don't. It's 10 p.m. On the East Coast, but there was one clip about the feed, and Peter and I just said, "Are we? What is the standard about refereeing a skew throw in the scrum?"
Yeah, the only thing we're refereeing is the 9 parallel to the scrum, and then that they don't throw it under the second row's feet. They do need to throw it somewhat into the tunnel.
The feet were parallel and the hooker hooked it.
Yep, that's good enough.
It's not, it wasn't good enough back when, but it
No.
seems to be good enough now.
5 years ago it wasn't, and the world has moved on. So yeah, the feed is not really being refed right now. So that is what we will also do to be consistent. There was one clip from last week that I wanted to show you guys. Oh, here it is. Oh, and I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Emily, or we're good, Emily and Peter? Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. One of the focus areas preseason was takeouts at the side of the ruck And if we watch Beantown here, we may need to continue to watch for this as the season continues. So right here, see this first defender set up in a great spot to defend. And now she's gone and the try is scored. Tough to get without TMO, especially from where Marty was standing. So I don't think the coach who called me with this held him personally responsible for it, but it is something we would love to get if we can. The AR was well positioned to see that. So something to carry forward for all of us. Let's see, don't want that, I want this. Awesome. So good meeting, everybody. I really appreciate the feedback. If you haven't seen, Jenny Lou's doing an Instagram takeover for the WPL this coming weekend. Super important to raise the profile of referees and especially women referees in the United States. If we could get 5 WPL players to become referees because they saw Jenny and they think she's amazing and they want to be like her, then that is great. So also all referees in the United States, maybe they see it and they're like, oh, I was an Eagle, now I can be a ref. That would be great. So let's all do our part and talk that up. It's awesome. Some things from me from this week real quick, because I'm conscious of our time. Scrum setup, well done. Let's take on Brian's comment about making sure our cadence is slow and we're not rushing that. Line out setup process is looking pretty good, but we did have some weird one-offs across the games. I did see some pulling down, also same last week and not throughout, but one here and there, and that's enough. We do need to be watching for that. Bulk, I think, was in your game, Emily, with New York, like throwing the ball and then switching and throwing the ball in.
A nice little underhand dummy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. They went under to over.
Yep. And then we did have an early lift somewhere along the way. I think that was the San Diego match. So once we've got the line out set up, let's also focus on the next things. And then continue to work on our positioning. We did have a comment come in from a coach about referee positioning. So that's the second one to come in. I mean, ultimately, if you are in the pass in the 9-10 channel, if they would just make that pass, you would take a step forward and you would have no longer been in the way. So there's that. If the ball hit you, then it would be their ball. So that's one way to sort of talk them through that process. They shouldn't change the way that they play the game because of where you are standing, is my personal opinion. Okay, and then week 6, here's what we've got coming up. Emily Shea's going to Chicago. Dan Frankenfeld is currently in Colorado, and Jenny Lou goes to New York. So
We lost the Atlanta game again.
we did lose the Atlanta game again. Yep. So Shando is supposed to be on Atlanta, and Life West decided not to travel, I think. Or was that last week? I can't keep it straight anymore. Maybe that was last week. Yeah. I don't know.
That was last week.
Yeah, because this was Berkeley this week. So this one's not canceled. It's moved to June 11th, which Shanda switched her flights around and she's going to still be able to do it. So that is something positive, I guess, that came out of it. Yeah, so awesome. Thank you guys all so very much. And especially for the refereeing in the poor weather for some of you this past weekend. Looked a little cold. So I appreciate you.
This is Emily. I have a quick question. North Shore said there might be thunderstorms and they shared the league policy about thunderstorms, about how the referee has to call it, et cetera, et cetera. Does that mean the league does not consider like delays of games?
I can check with Allie and follow up. I've got the same information that you do, which is the thunderstorm thing that I haven't read since, preseason, February.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll get clarification on it before you head out there. Okay, anything else? Okay, I will stop recording.